Your daughter, who was in a car at 40 degrees, has passed away. You are under arrest. The sudden words from the officer left my mind completely blank. There was no way our daughter, who was supposed to be at home with my husband, could be inside a car under the scorching summer sun. Where is our daughter right now? When I frantically contacted my husband,
"We're eating together,"
he casually replied. From the phone, I could also hear the cheerful laughter of a young child. What on earth was happening? Soon after, a shocking truth began to unfold. I am Stella, a 30-year-old working mother. I lived with my husband, Dylan, who is 3 years older, and our 2-year-old daughter, Melissa.
"Since we're both working, we should cooperate on housework."
When we were newlyweds, my husband used to say things like that. But in reality, he always found excuses and never helped with any of the housework. As a result, I was constantly overwhelmed by both my job and the responsibilities of household chores and childcare. Amidst this dizzying busyness, my greatest support was the smile of my beloved daughter. It was because of Melissa that I managed to push through even in tough situations. Dylan's consideration towards the family started to wane from the time I got pregnant. It seemed the cause was the worsening business performance of his company, leading to a reduction in his salary.
"They cut the entire bonus too. I don't even know why I'm working anymore,"
he muttered in discontent. "I'm working full-time as well, so we'll manage. Let's get through this together."
"How can you say that so easily? I'm struggling with a lot of things too."
When I tried to encourage him with a bright tone, my husband retorted sharply.
"You don't understand anything."
This was the turning point when our relationship began to feel strained. From then on, my husband started to be away from home more often, using work as an excuse. He claimed to be on business trips for more than half the month, and his attitude grew colder, citing his busy schedule. This happened when I was suffering from severe morning sickness and was lying down to rest.
"Hey! I'm back, and you haven't even prepared dinner?" Using pregnancy as an excuse to slack off. What a lazy woman.
My husband, upon returning home, yelled at me loudly. "I'm sorry. I'm so nauseous that it's hard even to stand." Even when I pleaded, he showed no concern for me and forced me to stand in the kitchen to prepare a meal. Unable to endure the smell of food, I ran to the bathroom, but my husband blatantly sighed in exasperation.
"Spare me the theatrics. That's why I hate pregnant women."
Then he slammed the door and left the house. How terrible. I was filled with a sense of despair, but I still held on to the hope that he might change once the baby was born. However, reality didn't turn out that way. Even after our daughter was born, my husband's attitude didn't improve. In fact, it only got worse. It was when Melissa had just turned 1 and was becoming more active. Our daughter accidentally spilled a glass of water she was drinking, and some of it splashed on Dylan, who was nearby. My husband turned red with anger and glared at our daughter.
"Don't mess with me. You little brat."
"Hey! Don't shout at her like that." While trying to comfort a crying Melissa, I reprimanded my husband for his behavior, but he didn't listen. And this wasn't just a one-time thing, it happened repeatedly. The thought of divorce crossed my mind, but I felt that I couldn't take a father away from our daughter just because of my feelings, so I held on somehow. But a few days after our daughter's 2nd birthday, something happened. It was a day off, but I received an urgent call from work in the morning. informing me of a problem, so I had to go in unexpectedly. I asked my mother if she could take care of Melissa, but she said she had plans and couldn't. Feeling helpless, Dylan surprisingly offered to help.
I'm free all day today, so I'll take care of her. You'd better hurry, or you'll be late.
Thank you. I'll try to get back as soon as possible. Please take care of her. I expressed my gratitude to my husband and quickly got ready and headed to work. As the noon chime rang, I finished my work and hurried through the ticket gate at the station nearest to our home, wiping the sweat off my forehead with a handkerchief. Stepping outside, the relentless sun was beating down on the asphalt. The morning news had reported that this day would see record-breaking heat across the nation. I tried to avoid the sunlight as much as possible while heading towards the bus rotary. At that moment, I saw several police officers rushing about. Is there an incident? I casually followed them with my eyes and saw a crowd of onlookers, and at the center of their attention was a car. Huh? Isn't that? I muttered in shock. It was my own car, surrounded by police. I couldn't understand why my car was there. I hadn't driven it that day since I don't use it for commuting to work. Excuse me. I couldn't just leave it like that, so I cautiously approached one of the officers. When I identified myself as the owner of the car, they gave me a stern look. Your daughter, who was in a car at 40 degrees, has passed away. You are under arrest. What? That can't be. The sudden words from the officer left my mind completely blank. According to them, a passerby had found a girl unresponsive in the car and called the police. Melissa should have been at home with my husband. This couldn't be happening. But the child found in the car had already been taken to the hospital, and I couldn't even see her face. I told the officer I needed to check something and frantically contacted Dylan. Where is our daughter right now?
Why are you asking all of a sudden? We're eating together.
He casually replied. Moreover, I could hear the cheerful laughter of a young child in the background. What was going on? I hung up the phone, bewildered, only to find the police officers glaring at me with anger. We need to hear the details. Please come with us to the station. Thus, I was taken in a police car and questioned at the station. They repeatedly asked me the same questions, and I gave the same answers each time. Several hours later, I was finally released. I decided to rush to the hospital they had mentioned. By the time I arrived at the hospital, the sun had set, and I was guided to a room where I found Melissa lying on a bed. But I was too late. My daughter had fallen into a deep sleep. When I left the house that morning, I never imagined something like this would happen. Melissa. Why did she have to go through something so terrible? As I cried, clinging to her, I vowed to uncover the truth and drag the person responsible for this into hell. A few hours later, I returned home alone. Dylan had gone out somewhere, and the house was dark. When I turned on the light in the living room, I noticed my husband's notebook and work documents scattered carelessly on the table. As I gathered them up to put them away, I accidentally dropped the notebook, and it fell open on the floor. Oh no. When I reached out to pick it up, I saw something shocking written on the open page. No way. I went to Dylan's study and checked his laptop, and discovered something even more surprising. The content was so far removed from reality that I felt my love for my husband drop to freezing point. So that's what it was. Resolving myself, I decided to make a certain phone call. Dylan returned home the next evening. He seemed in an unusually good mood, humming a tune as he placed the keys to my car on the living room table. I stepped out slowly from the shadows, watching him with cold eyes.
Stella. What are you doing here? You were supposed to be arrested.
My husband's body jolted, and he raised his voice in shock when he saw me. I picked up the car keys and, without hesitation, confronted him. So it was you after all. I thought something was wrong when I couldn't find the keys anywhere.
No, I just accidentally took them by mistake.
Why did you leave Melissa in my car and disappear? Perhaps sensing my growing anger, Dylan took a half step back.
What are you talking about? I don't know anything.
There's only one key, so how else could the car have been moved to the station? Only you could have done it.
That's...
My husband faltered, looking down, but I didn't stop my pursuit. At that moment, I felt an overwhelming surge of anger rising within me. The temperature inside the car exceeded 40 degrees in that scorching heat. How could you do something so cruel, putting her to sleep with medicine and locking her inside like that? In fact, the examination revealed that Melissa had traces of sleeping pills in her system. I tearfully confronted Dylan about this, but he just flashed a sly grin.
I told you, it's not my fault. She just disappeared on her own.
That's impossible. How could a 2-year-old get into the car by herself and drive to the station? Does he not realize how absurd he sounds? When I presented something to him, he clearly showed signs of distress.
Why do you have that?
What I held in my hand was his pay stub, which had been tucked into his notebook, along with a photo of a young woman holding a child about the same age as our daughter. When I suddenly showed these to him, he looked flustered, and beads of sweat appeared on his face. What's this all about? You said your salary had drastically decreased and that your bonus had been cut, but you've been getting paid properly just like before.
No, that's not.
And her name is Demi, isn't it? You're such a scumbag, cheating while your wife was pregnant. Is this child your secret kid? As I questioned him calmly, Dylan became increasingly flustered. Confess everything. I already know it all. When I said that, he seemed to give up and, with a defeated look, began to explain what had happened. It turned out that while I was pregnant with Melissa, my husband had started an affair with a woman who worked at a cabaret club. Of course, all his excuses about business trips and being busy with work were complete lies to spend time with his mistress. The salary he claimed had decreased was actually being used for his affair. And as he led a double life, he started to see me and our daughter as obstacles. Dylan was scheming about how to get rid of both of us simultaneously, planning the timing and method. That's when he saw the news about a child who had died after being left in a car on a scorching summer day. He then thought of leaving our daughter in my car on a hot day, planning to pin the blame on me.
When you suddenly said you had to go to work, I thought my luck had finally turned.
Don't joke around. Because of your selfish actions, Melissa.
Humph. Well, I didn't expect you to be released, but I'm going to start a new life with Demi, so let's just get divorced.
My husband said this with no remorse, as if it was nothing. Do you have any idea how much that child suffered? I'll never forgive you.
It's over. Melissa's no longer in this world.
He sneered at my words, laughing triumphantly in a vulgar manner.
But that brat was unlucky. wasn't she? If she hadn't been born as your child, she could have lived longer. Demi's child is adorable, you know. After all, her mother is in a whole different league.
At that moment, I heard the sound of the front door opening. Dylan, looking puzzled, turned his gaze toward the door and, in utter shock, gasped. I called her. The person who entered the room was Demi, my husband's mistress. The child she was holding was peacefully asleep in her arms. Dylan, seemingly confused, became restless and started pacing around the room. The truth was, on the previous day, I had discovered explicit exchanges with her on my husband's laptop in his study. I also found a business card for the cabaret club where Demi worked in one of the drawers, with her phone number written on it. I had secretly contacted her to hear her side of the story. Dylan had lied to Demi, claiming he was single, and they had been dating. When she found out he had a wife and child and had left Melissa in the car to meet her, Demi was shocked and furious. As a mother of a child the same age, she couldn't forgive such an act. The child's voice I heard in the background when I called Dylan before being taken to the police belonged to Demi's child. I know I can't be forgiven just by saying I didn't know, but I'm truly sorry. She looked me in the eye and sincerely apologized again. Dylan, witnessing this, became increasingly uncomfortable, shifting uneasily and darting his eyes around. And how is your daughter? Fortunately, she's made it through and is able to talk now. My mother is with her at the hospital. When I answered brightly, Demi's expression relaxed with relief. Her genuine concern for Melissa was evident. In contrast, my husband's eyes widened in shock.
What? She's still alive?
Yes. Thanks to her strong will to survive. After I was released from police custody, I rushed to the hospital, where the doctor informed me that while my daughter had been unconscious at one point, she was out of danger. Melissa, who had bravely endured her treatment, had fallen asleep from exhaustion.
No way.
Demi then turned her determined gaze toward Dylan, who was looking downcast. When I reached out to my estranged parents, they scolded me, telling me to come home right away. I'll be suing you for deceiving me about your marital status and for child support.
Wait. Hold on. I was planning to start a new life with you. I can't deal with that.
Dylan's voice was pitiful, but Demi only gave him a cold stare. Then, she bowed to me and left the room. My husband then looked at me with pleading eyes.
Stella. I must have been in a bad dream. Now that I've finally woken up, let's live happily together as a family of 3.
Huh? How could I possibly forgive you after you put our daughter's life in danger? Don't try to say convenient things now. I pushed him away as he tried to plead with me. I placed the divorce papers and my wedding ring on the table, grabbed the bags I had packed, and headed to the hospital, where Melissa and my mother were waiting. Behind me, I could hear Dylan's voice crying out loudly, begging for forgiveness. Later, I sued my husband for $200,000 in alimony and child support, and the divorce was finalized. Regarding my daughter, security cameras at the station clearly captured Dylan parking the car and running away from the scene, leading to his arrest. It looks like he'll be spending a few years behind bars. The incident was widely covered in the news, and my husband's face and real name were broadcasted for all to see. After facing social condemnation, he was fired from his job and cut off by his parents and friends. Even when he finishes serving his sentence, there won't be anyone waiting for him. He'll likely end up living a miserable life, drowning in debt to pay off the alimony and child support. But I don't care what happens to him now. As for me, I've returned to my parents' home, and with their help, I'm doing my best to balance work and raising my child. Every day, Melissa's adorable smile gives me the strength I need. It's my motivation, and I want to become a strong mother for her so we can have a happy future. How was this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.